Hi, Shelly. Okay then. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. So I'm going to share our experience of TMS therapy in psychiatry. After that excellent talk given by the earlier speaker, Ms. Kif. So I'm going to tell you only what we have been doing for the last 3 years now. We have experimented different protocols and saw what works and what doesn't. And finally, we have been fairly successful with uh, with with TMS therapy in psychiatry. So, uh, so I'm a neurosurgeon, and for these psychiatry patients, we have a team, and Dr. Snigdha was there. She was involved in many of these patients. She was involved in almost all the patients. She's our psychiatrist, and now we have Dr. Sureka, who is also working with us. Our experience, we have completed almost 30,000 sessions of TMS therapy for neuro rehabilitation and psychiatry. I think we have completed TMS therapy for around 1800 patients. We do around 30 sessions per day. Along with TMS therapy, we offer TDCS therapy and other non-invasive infrared therapy for these patients. And out of these 1800 patients, we have only a small fraction of patients who happen to have psychiatric diseases. Other patients are basically for neuro rehabilitation. But these 400 patients, that data I'm going to share with you. The various psychiatric diseases that we have treated so far have been depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, mania, obsessive compulsive disorders, and substance abuse. My talk is going to be very simple. It's not at all, I'll try to keep it very simple. So I'm a neurosurgeon. I'm not as smart as psychiatrists and other neurologists. So we have evolved over the past 4 years, a very simple protocol for treating all these disorders. See, we believe that there are only two targets that need to be targeted when treating psychiatric disorders. The two targets are left DLPFC and the right DLPFC. Both are very, very important parts of the brain that control the psychological aspects, the executive functions. Both these DLPFCs are huge junction for several subcortical pathways. By targeting these areas, we believe that we can modulate the entire brain. These are essentially the functional areas of brain. All other areas, to a great extent, are like either they subserve these centers. So the motor area is actually like a lower motor neuron type of part of the brain. All the upper motor are derived from the frontal lobes, the DLPFCs. And we do not use neuronavigation to guide us because we believe that the coil is pretty big, and it doesn't help us because we essentially target only these two areas, and the coil is quite big. I think we achieve a fair bit of accuracy even without navigation. As you know, the left DLPFC is the most common target area for all psychological diseases. And we believe that by stimulating the left DLPFC improves the flow of thoughts. So left DLPFC doesn't function well. A person has a blockage of thoughts, as happens in depression. What happens in depression? The person keeps thinking about the same thought over and over again. So the DLPFC is hypoactive, and by stimulating this DLPFC, we can improve the flow of thoughts. And vice versa in mania. Mania, what happens? There's a flight of thoughts. The person jumps from one thought to the other. So the left DLPFC is hyperactive. This is the basis of our treatment. This is what we believe. So most of the psychiatric problems are either a persistence of a thought or a rapid flight of thoughts. Similarly, the right DLPFC, though it is not given the same amount of importance as the left one, is also a very, very important part, and it almost does the same functions as the left DLPFC. So we should always remember that both are very important and both are very useful targets in psychiatric disorders. Your camera detached and the yeah. So the both DLPFCs are very important as far as the executive function, working memory, cognitive flexibility. So I was talking about the commonest protocol that we use in for depression. So it is a standard protocol that we use. We stimulate the left DLPFC or inhibit the right DLPFC, and we have had tremendous success with these protocols. They are very safe. We have never had any issues except for minor facial twitches and some occasional headache. We'd never had any seizures or any other problem. I think we more or less agree. All of us agree on this protocol that we use for depression. Mania is exactly opposite. So mania, there is a flight of thoughts. The person's thoughts jump from one to the other very, very fast. Is not able to concentrate on anything. Mania, the problem is we have difficulty in getting the patient complete a session because he's so irritable. He doesn't sit. You know, before he decides to, just as he decides to sit, he wants to get up and walk around. So we have, for these mania patients, we have trouble getting them to complete a session. When they do, the results are encouraging. And the protocol that we use is exactly opposite of what we use in depression. So in this, we inhibit the left DLPFC and we stimulate the right DLPFC. The results are encouraging. They're safe. We never encountered any side effects. But the results are not as trustworthy as in depression. Depression, we almost 100%. Mania, the trouble is getting them complete a session, and even when they complete a session, you know, maybe we had around maybe 50% of the patients who had a clear improvement in their symptoms. And then coming to obsessive compulsive disorders, we assess whether obsession or compulsion is the predominant complaint. If obsession is the predominant complaint, we follow depression protocol. If compulsion, we follow mania protocol. Results are mixed. We have treated around 30 patients with obsessive compulsive disorders, and results are mixed. The problem is they need to have minimum 30 sessions, and these patients because they don't see results immediately, some of them who we would have thought would have benefited stopped coming to us. But those patients who did go and complete, and maybe this about the Canadian Ottawa disability score for OCD disorders, they had at least a drop in around 50 points, 50 basis points. So those who completed our TMS therapy for OCD had good results, but not as good as in depression. Schizophrenia, you know, if the patients have negative symptoms like depression, we follow depression protocols. When they have positive symptoms, we try to use the mania protocol. Auditory area stimulation we have done earlier in our practice, but we have given it up because we believe that it is not useful, and also we believe that there is no anatomical basis of stimulating or of inhibiting the auditory area, because auditory area is just like it's by extension of the ear. The actual integration of hearing occurs in the parietal lobe as well as in the frontal lobe. So we believe that inhibiting the auditory area, the Heschel gyrus, doesn't help in any way. That's what we have learned it in our practice too. So I've given up fairly early in our practice. Substance abuse, I think it's not as much talked as other problems, but it's growing and by leaps and bounds. We use depression protocol. We stimulate the left DLPFC because again we believe that the patient is obsessed with a single thought of that substance, that whichever substance is addicted to. And the results are very, very encouraging. We had so many patients give up nicotine, alcohol, and I think and I think it's a very, very useful tool to have in our combat with this substance abuse. So to summarize, I think TMS therapy is a very, very powerful tool in psychiatry, and it is very safe. In almost the 400 patients that we did for various psychiatric disorders, we never encountered any side effects that is worth mentioning. And we believe that is a very useful aid because see, medicines have not only side effects, but they have their own limitations. They don't work in all patients. We believe like that TMS therapy is like brain physiotherapy. See, when a patient has a hand or leg weakness, we ask them to go for physiotherapy, and we believe that it's a standard practice, a standard care. Similarly, when a patient has psychiatric disorder, I think along with medicines and other cognitive therapy, behavioral therapy, if you can give this TMS therapy, TDCS therapy, I think it is going to not only complement, but I think it is also going to improve the outcome. And I think we are not doing enough. I think the amount of disease burden that we have is huge, and this problem is only increasing. And I think we are not using this tool enough uh, to have actually, a data that is critical enough for our analysis. So I think we need to pool all our data. We need to have like something like, we need to have standard protocols. I think we need to all upload our data into a common database. We need to come together, and then we need to analyze our data, because all these have scoring, and even these protocols have standard protocols. So standard machine, standard disease protocol, disease measurement tools. So we have to include all our data, pool our data, analyze our data, and improve our protocols. Because what protocols that have been published in the past are based on very, very very, very few patients, 10 patients, 20 patients, except for depression. We don't have very large studies. And I think each one of us can contribute to these databases and have some meaningful, worthwhile conclusions. And I think that is the need of the hour. I really thank all the participants, and especially the staff at Yingchi, Shelly and her team, for giving me an opportunity to share our experience. We have been the pioneers of this TMS therapy in our part of India. I still believe that the 30,000 sessions that we have done, one of the largest experience and one of the largest experience in India. And we are increasingly using this therapy for our patients, and hopefully we actually hope to publish our data very soon, so that we can share our experience with all of you in a more formal way. This ends my talk, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if any one of you have.
I want to ask a question. Do you use
Yeah,
SMA? Have you been using SMA, the midline, for OCD?
Earlier in our practice, we did target SMA, but you see, madam, I'm a neurosurgeon. I know how big SMA is. I know how big the coil is. This DLPFC and SMA are not very far apart. They're not very far apart. They are quite close by. You know, it is impossible for us to stimulate SMA without stimulating the DLPFC. You know, placing the coil specifically over SMA, we have not found it to be very useful. And so we have evolved our protocol, you know, based on the results that we had in the past. And we have honestly not found that stimulating SMA alone would be of much use to us, because SMA and DLPFC are very, very closely interconnected. And DLPFC, we believe that is a bigger junction than SMA. So by targeting DLPFC, you not only target SMA, but you target several other networks. You know, I think you can target the entire brain by stimulating the DLPFC. So since our practice, early practice, when we found that the SMA is not a very important target for these disorders, we have given up on it, and now we target DLPFC, which we believe is more meaningful. I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you very much, because I've been looking at OCD, the SMA. Yeah, it hasn't been effective as
Yes, madam. You know, there is a lot of hype about SMA. It is not a very important target. And second, by targeting DLPFC, you do stimulate SMA and several other pathways. I think you should go ahead and stimulate DLPFC next time. Results are worthwhile. Results are encouraging. And what protocol that I showed in the last few slides is a very simple protocol. See, you see, once a protocol becomes very complicated, most people give up on it. What protocol that I have shown in my slide is a very simple protocol that any one of us can put it to use. We target only left DLPFC and right DLPFC. The patient has obsession with same thought, we stimulate the left DLPFC. If there is the flight of thought, we stimulate the right DLPFC. So you can, it's easier to practice. You can easier for to teach your technicians too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, madam. We can
Okay, no more questions.
I think there is one question. Miss Kavita Shankar has asked, I think I'll be happy to answer. Which TMS protocol do you use for chronic pain? You know, chronic pain is again, you know, we have used a TMS, this left DLPFC for chronic pain. I think it is wonderful, because the left DLPFC not only, you know, controls the pain pathway, but also, you know, there is a depression in almost all of these patients with chronic pain. So I think by targeting left DLPFC, you will get very encouraging results. Any other questions that I can answer?
Well, no questions.
Ask a question.
So, okay, it's all about today's meeting. And thanks, doctor. Thanks for your sharing. And thanks, Skip, for her presentation. And thanks, everyone, for attendance today. And next week, we will hold another meeting mainly focused on the application of TMS in neurology. And you can also subscribe the YouTube our YouTube and get the video of today and last week. And wish you all doing well every day and see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and the organizers.